Imagine that you're one of the ones helping prepare the body of Jesus for burial. Now, keep in mind, this body has been crucified, but it's so much more than that because he was beaten, he was whipped, he was flogged, he was massacred, and then he was crucified. And now you're one of the ones helping retrieve that body from a cross, and you're helping carry that broken body to a place to help prepare it for burial. Welcome to day 19 of 21 days in the book of John, where we're in John 19, and it got heavy today. Very heavy. But normally the Romans would leave a body up after it's been crucified for a long time, as if to say, hey, if you break the law, this is going to happen to you. It was a fear tactic, intimidation. And I would imagine that it was very intimidating. But in this case, the Jews had asked the Romans to please remove the body of Jesus and the two criminals because it was close to the Sabbath, and it was also Passover, and it just didn't look good for those bodies to be there during these festivities, this celebration of God's goodness. And as I shared that with my wife this morning, she looked back across the breakfast table at me with tears rolling down her cheeks. She said, the most incredible act the world has ever known, and they went and tucked it and hid it away somewhere because it wasn't aesthetically pleasing for their festivities. I want you to think about the two guys here in John 19 that helped prepare the body of Jesus for burial. Imagine that you're one of those guys. Joseph of Arimathea and Nicodemus, both members of the Sanhedrin, both disciples of Jesus, but in hiding. But their job here is very important, very serious. Now, I want you to imagine that you are one of those guys and that you're carrying the body that was broken for you. And you're laying it in a place, and you're not just looking at the body that was severely beaten, slashes, flesh in places it shouldn't be. And you're not just looking at that. You're touching that with your own hands because you're preparing it for burial. Now, that's not as traumatic as actually going through what Jesus went through. But nonetheless, that's pretty traumatic to think about. You know why that bothers me more than anything? It's because with every scrape, every slash, every piece of flesh, every drop of blood that I touch was my fault. Because it was my sin that made that happen. It was the sin of Joseph, and it was the sin of Nicodemus, and it was the sin of all the world. And Jesus poured out every drop of everything that he had just so that you and I could have life. I don't know about you, but that's pretty heavy. And there's been so much of my time in my life that I have just wasted it on stupid stuff. I've worried about things, I've considered things, I've let things weigh me down that shouldn't weigh me down at all. And when I think about being one of the ones that prepared the body of Jesus for burial, it makes me realize that I don't need to waste 1 second on anything that doesn't bring God glory because of what Jesus did for me. Put yourself in their shoes today, because technically, their shoes are your shoes. Love you guys.